Last week, we discussed the problems with Xbox and Microsoft closing down studios, laying off entire dev teams, and one of the biggest victims of those closures and layoffs in 2025 has to be the initiative. Coalition is who's working on Gears of War, but the initiative and their long-rumored, long-suffering Perfect Dark reboot. It's interesting because from what I can remember, Perfect Dark Project Zero, like the launch title for the Xbox 360, one of the big IPs, a part of Microsoft's a big acquisition of Rare all the way back in the day, and that's all they have to show for it. I think they ported over the original Perfect Dark a couple of different times over through Xbox Live Arcade, and maybe you can get it on Game Pass. I'm not entirely sure at this point, but there's always been rumblings of a Perfect Dark 3, a Perfect Dark reboot. But last year, in on and around, what was that, Summer Games Fest or Gamescom, we got what would later be revealed to be a deceptive trailer come out and show that, oh no, the reboot is still happening, and it's actually, well, it's quite far along, in fact. We eventually find out that that wasn't in fact the case at all whatsoever, and a lot of money and a lot of resources have been wasted in order to fake up a trailer, but there was still seemingly some life in the franchise. But now, yeah, that's not the case at all whatsoever, and there is so little hope in the franchise that even a deal to keep this alive, okay, to make it a reality, doesn't even seem to be on the cards at Xbox. But Perfect Dark, everything we know about the canceled Xbox exclusive. So the Perfect Dark reboot has reportedly been canceled. The news emerged on July the 2nd of this year, following sweeping layoffs across the Microsoft business. While it remains unclear how much the 4% reduction in headcount was impacted the games division, I think it took a lion's share. As far as we last seen, a leaked memo from Xbox Game Studio President Matt Bodie confirmed that both Perfect Dark development has ended and that the studio behind it, the initiative, has been closed. The Perfect Dark reboot was one of the most anticipated upcoming Xbox Series X games of 2026. Yeah, no, that's true, because if it's good, it would have been spectacular, but if it was, well, just kind of what we were kind of anticipating, let's just say strong-jawed Joanna Dark, it'd be the least of our concerns. But yes, pitched as a long-awaited return of Joanna Dark is a fresh take on the secret agent experience. And now we're going to be getting that with 007 First Light, so I guess it's not totally a loss. A gameplay trailer released in 2024 teased a deep immersive sim which could include a freedom, yes, to let you play your way, with plenty of choice when it comes to how you could approach missions and tackle objectives. And again, all of that stuff that you've seen in that trailer was a lie. You're a liar. Hey guys, the initiative's a phony. You know who worked there? Phonies, a bunch of phonies. Development on Perfect Dark was canceled. Yes, July of 2025. It was probably, slow rolled a long time before that, but despite a great gameplay reveal, words are hard, at the Xbox Game Showcase in 2024. Yeah, that was in the lead up to Summer Games Fest, if I recall correctly. There has been speculation that Perfect Dark had a challenging development period, including a full creative reboot in 2022. The latest Perfect Dark trailer is a far cry from the teaser that we saw back in 2020 for the Game Awards. Wow. In it, frankly, too badass to be real, Joanna Dark gets suited up to go undercover in a stealthy mission in Cairo. Cue the techno gadgets, cybernetic, punk-infused sensibilities, the first-person action games like a Dishonored or Deus Ex. Oh, actually giving it personality outside of, hey, look, we got a female protagonist. She's going to be female protagonist that you've seen in every other AAA game. Yay. So glad we got rid of this. About the bustling city like a shadow. Hustling's about the city like a shadow. And yeah, that could have been cool. That would have been interesting because, okay, cool. Think about how many female or AAA female action games that are out there. Okay, we were very likely the initiative was probably planning something like that. But how many Dishonored and Deus Ex type games are out there? Yeah, exactly. I know what I would have been lobbying for. But yes, this is where the story picks up a little bit of steam now, heading towards the end of 2025. Perfect Dark was in development from the initiative and Crystal Dynamics. The former studio was founded in 2018 and headed up by Daryl Gallagher, who funnily enough played a key role in the 2013 revival of Tomb Raider with Crystal Dynamics. Okay. And that first Tomb Raider revival in 2013 is a pretty good game. I only played through it once, but I did roll credits on it and I remember liking it. But again, it's been over a decade at this point in time, so yeah, maybe it hasn't fared all that well in retrospect. I'm not exactly gagging to go back and play it, but I digress. Partnership of the two studios came off the back of rumors that have been circulating alleging that the initiative was struggling to retain its staff as development of Perfect Dark became more complex. Gallagher later told VGC, it's no small task to build a studio and reinvent a beloved franchise. It's 2 games, and nobody talks about the second one. You could really do whatever you want, but okay. In this journey, it's not uncommon for there to be staffing changes, especially during a time of global upheaval over the last 2 years. All right, this is back in the day, and there's plenty more work in front of us to deliver a fantastic Perfect Dark experience to our players. Now, interesting, right? Because he seems awfully passionate about the game, but then when you take a look at this, Take-Two, okay, Take-Two, a fairly large publisher, okay, to just as modest as possible, to save the Perfect Dark reboot, okay, they attempted to save it, but the deal crumbled after a rights disagreement. So were they really passionate about this? Or were they vastly overselling how much work they've done on it? Or, well, what do we got? So yes, the long horrific tale of the Perfect Dark reboot seems to have finally come to a close. Following 7 years of development hell, a controversial Perfect Dark reboot was almost restored by Rockstar parent company Take-Two Interactive. The discussion around the future of the IP went sour, mass layoffs ensued. Microsoft had been making headlines, yes, as it continues to downsize. The mass layoffs within the company have affected roughly 4% of its global workforce, although that may sound like a small number. On paper, represents 9,000 employees who have been axed by the mega corporation. These layoffs have led to particular sectors of the company to suffer or even die out as a consequence. Microsoft's stated goal with the terminations is to position the company and teams and success for a dynamic marketplace, meaning the initiative isn't pulling their weight, therefore you can take your spot in the unemployment line. So yes, back to the development of Perfect Dark. Years prior, whilst development was ongoing, the initiative had been struggling with the game, so the partnership with San Mateo Games developer Crystal Dynamics was formed. Paired together, the 2 studios effectively reset the game by moving it from Initiative's custom engine over to Unreal 5. Oh, interesting. That's not a red flag. I don't know what is at this point. The project didn't get much better, though, as developers began lashing out to potential customers. Oh boy. After years of development hell, the Initiative's recent closure, the remaining team couldn't finish the game alone, and it was brought to a complete standstill. Embracer Group, who owns Crystal Dynamics, seeking either to revive the game or simply recoup the cost, attempted to sell the game off to other publishers. Okay. The parent company of Rockstar Games, Take-Two Interactive, began talks with Embracer, planning to finish the game and release it. This is really sounding an awful lot like Gearbox swooping in at the 11th hour to help save Duke Nukem Forever. The negotiations didn't get far, however, as the 2 companies were unable to reach a consensus on the long-term ownership of the Perfect Dark franchise reboot. The deal was a wash. Following this, Crystal Dynamics joined Microsoft in commencing a wave of layoffs, though the number of impacted employees is unknown. Well, it's enough to kill the studio. Okay, so for the time being, Perfect Dark has flatlined as a franchise, and it's unlikely to be resuscitated anytime soon. Because yeah, it's cool, right? Like you hear, oh, there's going to be a new Perfect Dark game. It's like, well, okay, just taken out of the context of modern day video games. It's like, oh, that could be cool. It could be great. There was a lot of promise with that first game that run like a flip book back on the N64, and I guess there was something there with the Xbox 360 launch title. But yeah, we definitely could. We could do with a good character-based FPS with some stealth elements and some future tech that could be really cool. But it's not like anybody was really gagging for this. But yes, there seems to be a clear pattern here. Gaming companies are having a difficult time understanding what the market demands of them until they can lock down a clear vision for the path ahead, and they will continue in their frenzy of failure, announcing ever more projects that will never see the light of day. Yeah, man, because this cancellation for this reboot isn't exactly that uncommon of a situation, especially over at Microsoft. Remember, guys, we're eventually going to be getting that Fable reboot that I've been hearing about longer than Fable has been a franchise, it seems like, at this point in time. Remember the first Fable game came out on the original Xbox, Fable 2 and 3 on the 360, and then did we even get that Connect Fable game? What about future installments in Gears of War? Okay, and any idea on that, or are they just going to be remastering the original trilogy? And do we even need to talk about the future of Halo? Because next month we're supposed to be getting an update from the rebranded Halo Studios, who, if you recall, okay, they want to bring Halo back to its roots. Okay, they want to remind their fan base of exactly why they fell in love with the game to begin with. Is that because, they had unparalleled gameplay, because they had tremendous world building, recognizable and memorable characters? No, because it had cutting edge visuals and we're using UE5. Like I said before, bit of a red flag. And what is that incompetent studio that has been in control of Halo longer than Bungie was, by the way? What have they brought to the table? Failed Infinite, Halo 5, nobody talks about that. It is widely regarded as the worst Halo game. and a massive fumble to begin with, all the way back in the day with Halo 4. Xbox, I mean, now that people are starting to talk about the problem that is Game Pass and the way that they're positioning themselves moving into the future with the next generation of consoles, I don't know how much longer they want to be in this whole gaming space, because it really is looking like they're making these little decisions, laying off a bunch of people, where they're either going to go strictly ahead with a subscription service of their back catalog or just getting out of gaming, full stop. Time will tell, though. I'm always up for competition. I do love me some Xbox exclusives, or at least what used to be exclusive games back in the cut. There we go. We'll just call them first-party titles. But at this point in time, it's been a long time since I've had an itch to turn on any Xbox product. See if that changes in the years to come. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.